when the was launched.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of AF24NEWS Talks. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Henry Okonkwo, a lead correspondent here at AF24 News, and Dr. Olabisi Dejifolutile, a director here at AF24 News. Welcome, Mr. Henry. Welcome, Dr. Olabisi. How are you feeling?
Very good.
Thank you
Thanks.
for joining us today.
And thanks for having me again.
Well, today we're talking about something perhaps is one of the longest running discussions in Nigeria's political space. Is about the financial autonomy of local governments. And on sometime this week, the Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling saying that it was illegal or and unconstitutional for governors to receive funds allocated to the local government, essentially saying that like now local governments can take responsibility for their allocation straight from this federal level, and there's no need for the state governments to be withholding or seizing or releasing it as piecemeal or any other insinuations that the general public has had about how money moves through the three tiers of government. So today I just want to discuss what that means, if it means anything at all for the Nigerian people, and what was the basis for it in the first place, not being so, and just what to expect going forward from now that that has been regularized. So I think I will start from you, Dr. Dejifolutile. What can you encapsulate what the implication of this is?
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Wisdom. Yeah, the Supreme Court judgment of July 11, 2024 has been described by many as a landmark judgment, a landmark decision. And there is a reason for that. Yeah, the Supreme Court ruled that henceforth local government allocations should go directly to the local governments. Before now, there is a joint account that state governments and local governments have, where they put the allocation for local governments. And over the years, for more than 20 years now, we have seen situations where the allocation, we have three tiers of government in Nigeria. We have the federal government, we have the state government, and we have the local government. All of these three tiers collect monthly allocation from the national treasury, so to say. So what used to be before the Supreme Court ruling was for local government money to be paid alongside the state government money into a joint account, where the state will now give the local government what is due to them. But there were complaints that the state governments were always giving the local governments piecemeal. And also because if you notice very well in Nigeria, when people talk about governance, they rarely think about the local governments. They rarely think about governance at that level. And there is this easy excuse that local government money don't get to them. And because of that, they can't really do anything. But you know what? It is so interesting that the administration, this particular administration, it was even during his time, as during the president's time as a governor, that this practice came up, because that was the time that as governor of Lagos State then, Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu created LCDAs in addition to the 20 local governments that are constitutionally approved for Lagos State. I mean, his own reason, which I agree with, is that Lagos State is too big to have just 20 local government areas. There are far places that are smaller getting more local government, but for any state to have additional local government is a constitutional matter. The National Assembly must approve of it, which was not done. So e now created local community development areas, LCDAs. So for doing that, the federal government at that time, which was headed by President Olusegun Obasanjo, now refused to give Lagos State its allocation. So Lagos State was actually being managed by the state government, the funds from the state government. So by the time the allocation was eventually released, it went back to the states and all of that. So a lot of things happen along the line, and that is how states began to manage local government funds in Nigeria. Now, with this ruling, it means local governments now have access to their funds. It is good news. Like I said yesterday, like I said in one of my programs on another television show, that this is good news for Nigeria, good news for local governments, but also it could be bad news. Why? Good news for Nigerians, because now there is no longer excuse. No excuse for any local government not to perform. And bad news for local government chairmen that do not want to perform, because the people know your address, they know where to come to, and they know how to demand for governance at that level of government. So I just try to summarize what the whole thing is all about.
Well, I want to ask, just coming off the back of that, since we kind of have a good idea of what to expect going forward, like you said, we are having now bad news for people that don't want to perform, and good news for the citizens themselves and being able to hold them accountable. I want to ask Mr. Henry, do you think that there's going to be any improvement in terms of how the local government performs now because of this?
Well, um, the Supreme Court, they've given their verdict. So we will now have to sit back and see how the law on how this declaration affects the local governments. But there have been conversation around that verdict. People feel, or some Nigerians feel that on the aspect of how these funds are managed, things like let there be a way we can domesticate independent corrupt agencies like the EFCC and the ICPC, to have them manage some of these, how these local governments, how they spend and all these things, to avoid us having cases of corruption, how the mismanagement of funds and everything. And then it has also generated calls for the state's electoral commissions on how let us have credible elections, so that these candidates that will be running these local governments will be people that will be elected through free and fair election. Not a situation where the chairman, the councillors will still have a way they get handpicked by the governors that end up being puppets. They are there to answer to the governors that kind of backed their election there. So it now raises the question of, let us create agencies to monitor how these funds, how when they get allocated, how they are managed by these councillors and the chairmen, And then let us do more, let us have credible elections. Whether we will continue having state SIC, that is the State Independent Electoral Commission, or it should be scrapped, because that's the raging questions now. It's something we would all want to see back and unfold, as it unfolds, and see how the states adapt to this new ruling, because the control of state governance on the local government is an anomaly that, because we condoned it, it became a norm. It was an anomaly. In fact, I was even surprised why, because at the time people were no longer, even the local government themselves, it was almost at the verge of being a norm. So with this verdict, let us all see and see how things pans out.
Well, one of the points that have been raised as a result of this is also the possibility. People are saying, "Oh, what could possibly be the negative, for instance, to this kind of ruling?" And apart from the fact that, okay, yes, it liberates the local government from being overly reliant on the state government. On the other hand, it also seems to give the local government direct, or the federal government direct, control of the local government, which makes it kind of more susceptible to the same manipulation we saw at the state level, but only this time it is on a higher scale because we're talking about over 700 local governments essentially being controlled by a central authority, as opposed to, in a state you can have 20 local governments. So it's like almost the opposite of decentralizing power in a sense, in a sense, even though not systemically. So what do you have to say about that observation?
The truth is that a lot of people are looking at that, and you see, I cannot say that such people do not have a point, because when you, especially judging from the fact that this particular case was this particular case originated from the Ministry of Justice, from the Attorney General of the Federation. It was the Attorney General of the Federation that took the 36 state governors to the Supreme Court to ask that this be done. And you know that in Nigeria, you will ask yourself, what is the concern of the Attorney General seeking independence for local government chairmen? Is it because they really love Nigerians so much that they want this local government chairman to deliver, or could there be an ulterior motive? Those who subscribe to an ulterior motive are the ones saying what you just said. And look at it, we have 774 local governments in Nigeria. Now, the argument of this set of people is that if the federal government directly controls money that goes to these 774 local governments, it means that at that federal level, all these local governments can be directly controlled, in that government can decide which local government will get allocation and which local government will not get, for one reason or the other, which will make every local government to now pander to the demands of the big man at the federal level. It's a big possibility, because now the governors are totally like they are no longer powerful, they are powerless. Because when you look at this from the political point of view, politics starts from the grassroots. So the people at the grassroots, if you cannot control them, even if you are a party chairman, you must first of all be a member of your ward, be a member of this at your grassroots. So which means that if anybody in Abuja wants to remove a national party member, you can do it from that grassroots. Meanwhile, the governors are now powerless, because part of the reasons why the governors were powerful was because they were in control of the money. So they dictate who gets to that position. So they end up putting their own people there. So that is why some people are afraid that, are we not trading one thing for the other? Are we not trading the control of governors over local governments for a big man there at the center who now controls everyone? It's a possibility, but no one can say that is what is happening. So I would rather we look at these things from the things that we can see, the ones that we can analyze, instead of looking at inferences, even though I am not dismissing that influence. But looking at things from this perspective, there are others who are also saying that this is not even going to stop the governors, that this may not stop the governors from controlling the local government, because if the governor's puppet is the local government chairman, he will still answer to the governor, and whatever the governor tells them is what they will do. So maybe we will look at it now that local governments now have become the bride that the federal will scrabble for, the states will scrabble for. But for me, let the people begin to hold this local government chairmen responsible, accountable. Now that we know that money gets to you, please build toilets. There are little things that local government councils are empowered to do. They can make bylaws, they can make policies. They also have their own legislative council where they can also take decisions. Please don't tell me that you don't have allocation again. More so, the allocation getting to them now with fuel subsidy removal is huge. Don't tell me that you cannot build toilet facilities. Don't tell me that you cannot build primary health care centers. Don't tell me that you cannot do little things for your people. You should be able to do, because the money that is there is enough to be able to do something every month. Yes, Henry mentioned something like the independent, the corrupt practices, whatever. It is the people that are going to do the monitoring. The ones that are in Abuja, what are they doing? I just read a report today that almost 1 point something trillion naira, about 0 point something percentage of our GDP was stolen, was used for corruption in 2023. A huge amount of money as corruption, 0.35 of Nigeria's entire GDP or something like that. So what are we talking about? They still do that, they still steal, they still do all of those things. So the people are themselves that will say, okay, you collected, and good enough, the money they collect is usually in the public purview. So you collect, my local government, you collected this amount, what have you done with it? Let's hold them accountable, and from there let's work with what we can see and leave the influences.
Well, it's great that you mentioned the fact that we should discuss, things that we can see on this level and not the inferences. And one of the things that Nigerians can see as a clear result from this is that we can now hold the local government accountable, and there is going to be a repercussion for not doing something. Usually we are used to seeing the local government not get as much attention when it comes to elections, or when it comes to appointing elections. Sorry, let me take that part again. So we are accustomed to seeing from the local government level very little attention being paid into how elections go on that level. So now we just want to confirm by asking Mr. Henry, what do you think could be the implications of this from the level of, oh, if we find out that we have corrupt um, elected officials on the local government level, can they be tried? Do they have immunity? We know in countries like America, for instance, the state and the federal government have sovereign immunity, but that's not is not doesn't apply to municipalities. So is that the case in Nigeria too? And if not, what does that help or
Well,
mean?
yeah, that's why I said there is need. I suggested that we should have strong anti-corruption mechanisms in these local government councils to hold these government. Okay, if the people um, find cases or make allegations, they should be able to know where to make their reports. Strong anti-corruption mechanism, because prior before the state government emasculated the local government, I noticed then that was when they had some level of independence. Many local governments, or some of the local governments that I observed, there was a very high level of recklessness. In fact, one of them then, I wouldn't want to mention the local government at that time, the local government at that time decided to spend money holding prayer crusades. What's the name of the third? Breaking spiritual embargoes. That's the name of the prayer session. You see the caliber of clerics that were brought both from the Christian and from the, it was a big event then in the local government. Then the next thing they say they are doing, they went to one place and say they installed street lights. When the hospitals there were not working, the markets there were crumbling, the roads there were unmotorable. So I'm like, some of these things are not, they are a case of misplaced priorities, which I feel if we had a case of them, if we had strong anti-corruption things that can monitor how these monies are allocated, where these monies are channeled, and also for the people to be actively involved in electing personalities, politicians that will cater for their interests, not the ones that will just go there and pander to the governors that maybe might have installed them there and emasculate the councillors, and it will still be what we are used to, the mediocrity we see at the federal, states, and at the local government. So I feel, thank God, we don't have the immunity. I used to think they were immune. But since they are not immune, that's why I insist, or I suggest, that let us have strong anti-corruption mechanisms there to monitor and to put them in check.
Well, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting development, and there's so many things to say about it, about where it could go and where it may not take us to. Do you have any closing remarks about it?
Yeah, I also want to note that the Supreme Court judgment also says that caretaker committees should not will not get allocation from the federal government, because the practice before now is that they rarely hold local government elections, which is constitutionally provided for. So governors just elect caretaker committees over local government. But now that judgment says that any local government that does not have elected officials will not be entitled to allocation from the center. So I think that will make elections to hold at the local government level now. Maybe what we should now say is that we should suggest and appeal to people to also show more interest in politics at that level now, because the quality of people that are elected will eventually determine the quality of service that they will get. So let people show more interest at the level, so that there will be some kind of activities, not just a political party that is in power at the center of the state that will come to power. Let them elect people. Let the political space be open, so that everybody, they should work, they should demand for it. Now when I talk, I say people demand, because after looking at politicians all over, I look at elections politics in the UK, I look at it in the US, I see some similarities. The only thing is that those people are more, their people are probably more politically conscious, or maybe, than us. They make some demands, they ask questions which we do not ask. Ultimately, it is the people that will determine what they want from their leaders. So let every one of us begin to show more interest in politics at that local government level.
It's a very interesting way to wrap it up. It puts responsibility back in the hands of the people ourselves to take the right decisions and to take our destiny in our hands, especially from the grassroots level. If we're able to get it right, many of these people eventually rise up to even state and to even federal level of governance. So it was a very nice way to wrap it up. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for following AF24 News Talks. If you like this episode, you can subscribe to the channel AF24 News Stories on YouTube and follow us on all our social media platforms. And also check out www.af24news.com, which is our news website where we post trending issues across the country and the globe. Thank you. Have a wonderful week.